Now, when we talk about forgotten maps, okay, whoops. When we talk about forgotten maps, the real question is, whose fault is it? Is it the player base's fault, or is it the developer's fault for forgetting about the maps themselves? If you were on the outside looking in, and you're paid attention to PUBG Mobile on socials, if you watched any YouTube, you would think there's 2 maps in the game. You would think there's only Livik and Erangel. That's it. Yet there's 5. There's 5 other maps in the game. We have Nusa, we have Karakin, we have Vikindi, which I'm gonna be focusing heavily in this video. We have Vikindi, we have Miramar, and we have Sanhok. Yet truly, they don't get any updates, all right? And there's never any events held on them. So that's when you kind of wonder if somebody wants to point fingers or do the whole blame game thing. I truly don't understand why. I mean, it takes years to develop these maps. This isn't something they just wake up, throw together, and then, release it globally. It takes a very long time. Why aren't there events on the other maps? Even if they didn't put events, if they put things in the Royal Pass that would make people, that would push people, encourage people to play other maps, it would be massive, okay? So that's the first thing. Now, thinking back, speaking of events, thinking back to some of the events that were held on other maps. For example, when King Kong, I think it was about a year ago, when King Kong and Godzilla they had the collaboration, they had an exclusive event that was held, of course, on Erangel, but also on Sanhok. People loved it. They absolutely loved the fact that Sanhok was getting some love, and there were a lot of people playing it. Another event that comes to mind. This is where I do a call to action in the comment section. The real OGs will remember this one, when they had the Sandstorm mode in Miramar. I played Miramar every single day for like 2 months, basically until the event went away. They actually had 2. I don't even remember the other name of the event, but they had Sandstorm, and then they actually had one. Again, I don't remember the name, but you had like a tornado, and if you landed inside the tornado, there's a guaranteed crate, like an airdrop, as well as a guaranteed flare gun if you landed. And there was 1, if not 2, of these, of these tornadoes on the map. And it was kind of one of the first times they introduced kind of a designated hot drop outside of, just one of the main cities. The time in the game during these types of events that they held on other maps was absolutely massive. People loved it. I'm sorry, I know that Erangel is fun. I know that Livik is fun. But speaking for myself, and I think I speak for a lot of others, because I hear it all the time, almost every single video, there's comments on this very topic, which is, why aren't there other events on other maps that are in the game? Now I want to bring your attention to this image right here. This was actually from 2021. Vikindi is very unique. All right, it dropped the first year that the game came out, believe it or not. It was December 2018 when Vikindi dropped, and it was huge. It was right around Christmas time. Vikindi was insta-match. It was completely filled with players. Everybody loved it. Now, what was interesting, when Vikindi first arrived, the majority of the players were actually upset because of the loot. There's something weird going on when Vikindi was still in beta, but they released it to global. All you could find, I remember, were shotguns and SMGs. There was like 3 ARs on the entire map, but luckily, they made a patch. They quickly fixed it, and it was crazy. It was about 2 years, and then they took Vikindi away. They took Vikindi away for about a year, and people kept wondering, oh, Vikindi 2.0 is going to come. We can't wait. And then they brought back Vikindi. We were expecting, the Abbey to be redone. We were expecting the train, the new weapons. And then they brought back Vikindi, which was great, but it was the same Vikindi that it was before they took it out. It was very, very weird. And I think when that happened, it turned off a lot of players and people just basically forgot about it. They just stopped playing it. Now I want to turn your attention to this image right here. And this was released on the official PUBG Mobile channels. And it's this one, which is Vikendi 2.0. This has been out on PC for ages at this point. And notice it says the version is to be determined, but this is with the 1.4 patch. This is dating back again to 2021. And people saw this and people went nuts. They went absolutely nuts when they saw that Vikendi 2.0 was going to be coming to mobile. And then we waited, and then we waited, and then we waited, and we waited. And then it just never happened. Even to this day, Vikendi's in the game, but not Vikendi 2.0. Now, going back to the question that I asked you guys at the very beginning of the video, which is, who's to blame? If anybody, who's to blame? And I said, is it the devs for not putting events, for not encouraging people, kind of pushing people, encouraging people to play other maps, or the player base? Because one thing I can guarantee you, when you're talking about Sanhok, when you're talking about Miramar, Vikendi, Karakin, if more players were playing the maps, because it's all about analytics, right? It's all about analytics. It's all about retention time, how much time people are spending in the game. There was an overwhelming majority of people say playing Miramar, like people playing Miramar, 10 times more than they're playing Erangel. I guarantee you they would start putting events on that map. But that's why it I would actually say both. I would say both are to blame in the sense where the devs haven't put out any new events. People always want new content, right? They don't want to do the same thing over and over and over. That's why every single update, there's a brand new event for Erangel, for example. And that event also spills over onto Livik, which is, kind of like the Pride and Joy, because it's a map that is truly only designed for PUBG Mobile and, nothing like, PUBG PC, console, anything like that. So if the devs don't put out events on the maps, that's not really going to encourage players to play the map. So I feel like the analytics, top to bottom are just completely skewed from the dev side as well as the player base, because the player base isn't going to play the maps if there's not any new content on them. And when it comes to Erangel, when you first download the game, it's that map you don't have to download. It's already the default map for the game. It's the map that you have to play your first match on in order to unlock other features. When you first download. But I truly don't understand why more players aren't playing on these other maps when you're talking about Miramar offering a very unique experience, when it comes to sniping, when it comes to rotations, when it comes to vehicles. I mean, the map in itself is absolutely beautiful in its own right. The whole desert setting, I think it's great. When you're talking about Sanhok also, it's incredibly unique. When you're talking about the gaming experience, a lot of close range fights, especially if you're landing boot camp, if you're going to be landing Paradise, if you're going to be landing Pan it's very unique. It's a very beautiful map. It's an absolute tropical paradise. It is a lot of fun. It's very challenging, which also makes me wonder, do a lot of people not play the other maps simply because the players that do play those maps, it's very challenging. People always, traditionally, people want easy. If you can make something easy, you're going to do it. So when you're talking about like a map like the player base that's going to be playing on Erangel versus the player base that you're going to find playing on Sanhok or Vikendi, if you can get into a match, it's very, very challenging, but very, very fun. It's a very unique experience. But I just feel like these maps have been completely forgotten about, not only by the developers, but also from the player base. And I like playing different maps. I don't just like playing the same map over and over and over and over and over again. I like playing different things. And there's freaking 7 maps to choose from. But for the most part, people are picking one out of 7, maybe 2. If you throw Livik in there. Sound off in the comment section though. Really, really want you guys to sound off. What would you say? Would you say it's the player base that has forgotten about these maps? Or is it the developers? Maybe it's both. I'll see you in the next one.